How you doing, guys? Eric from RoadWasteland.com. See how many views this one gets, because it's probably going to have a lot of keywords that YouTube doesn't like. But I don't like, it doesn't seem like censoring them works to begin with anyway. And so from now on, I'm going to probably be posting videos like this on my Rumble channel, which I do have, which nobody is there, nobody watches it, whatever, but it's an alternative method. So in the future, I'll probably, once I get enough viewers on there, I will not even post some of these more, you know, I don't want to say controversial, but more likely to be shadow banned or outright banned or demonetized videos on just exclusively on Rumble, and because YouTube is just, censorship is really bad. But the topic of the video today is the so-called Day of Rage or jihad that everyone is talking about, that is alleged to occur tomorrow, Friday the 13th, October 13th. And it was, I believe, Hamas leadership that called for Islamists around the globe to prosecute a global day of jihad. And it's specifically related to people, you know, in the Middle East, and talking about, I don't know about charging, but overwhelming or making a show of force or presence in the Gaza Strip, whatever. But obviously for most of us watching this video, most people in the world are not anywhere near the Middle East enough to be concerned directly by that. But the call for a global action is what has a lot of people raising their eyebrows, wondering what we're going to see tomorrow, if anything. I kind of agree with JJ, and for those of you guys who didn't see my most recent video, or I don't know if it's the most recent, but he is releasing an American Preparedness Academy app. You should check it out on there. A lot of good information. A lot of the channels, like myself and him and others that you've seen, you can get consolidated information on this app. And so it's available in the Prepper store, or sorry, the Play Store, or wherever you would get normal apps. But anyways, I kind of agree with him that the idea of like these very organized sleeper cells in the traditional sense of like there's 10 or 12 guys that are highly trained, highly planned out, and just waiting for the call, are gonna rise up in a like really militaristic or organized fashion, is probably an overblown threat. I think it's much more likely that some random person hearing this might decide to do something stupid, whether that's a shooting spree or driving their truck into someone random or starting a fire somewhere, or any number of things like that that could cause problems, cause injury, cause loss of life, whatever. So do I think we're going to see a bunch of insane stuff tomorrow? Probably not in the United States. I think that it could get pretty hairy in the Middle East, specifically in Israel and in Gaza Strip area. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't take precautions. Now, even if there are 100 fairly serious events in the United States, it's a huge place with hundreds of millions of people. The odds are that most of us, just by sheer luck, if you want to call it that, or odds, would just not be affected. But I think the way you can get that really down to near zero is staying away from areas that are likely to be targets. So even if you're in a big city, if you're just chilling out in your apartment, you're pretty unlikely to be a target outside of major terrorist events like 9/11 type thing, which I don't think is going to happen tomorrow. Like I said, this doesn't strike me as the type of thing that would be happening here right now, simply because of this. But I wouldn't go anywhere near any of these protests. I wouldn't be attending any large events, let's put it that way, tomorrow. And I would be very cautious anywhere you do go, especially if it's a place where demographics might make it more likely that you would run into someone who might take these words to heart that are being spoken by these people overseas. So if you're in rural Arkansas, probably not much going to happen. If you're in New York City, more likely. So it's just something to consider. But what are the kinds of things you can do? Like I just said, first of all, avoiding areas that are likely to be targets, avoiding people that are likely to be aggressors, and then basic self-defense, basic alertness, basic tools. You know, we have, it's a little late now because it's tomorrow, but I've always talked about things like the Safe Life Defense backpack panels, the mirrored gas masks, having something like that if someone does decide to start a fire or release some sort of chemical or anything like that. So basically the main thing you can do is make yourself scarce from potential targets and have some situational awareness and basic self-defense and protective tools and implements. But I don't expect us to see anything too crazy here in the U.S. But you better believe that if something does anything happens, and it's even remotely linked to this, it's going to get a ton of press. So if you think about it, we have some level of Palestinian leadership calling for a global day of jihad. If even one person in a country of 350 million people decides to do something about that, it's going to make big headlines and only further stoke the rhetoric and desire of a lot of people to get more involved in this conflict. So that's what I think is the big danger here. Because like I said, and this isn't to downplay the injury or death of anyone that's happened anywhere, but if, let's say, 100 people were to die in a attack of some kind tomorrow, which would be horrible, in the grand scheme of, like I said, statistically, that makes most of us extremely safe, just in an odd sense tomorrow. But you better believe that thing would be all over the news in a way that we probably still couldn't, or still haven't seen, even with everything that's happened so far. So, be frosty, stay frosty, keep situational awareness, keep your head on a swivel, as they say. At this point, I think we should always be doing that anyway. Always have defensive implements. Always have, and I really love these. I got to take a moment to shout. I've used a lot of holsters over the past few years, especially since I've been moving to a dedicated, or made the decision to carry pretty much 100% of the time, unless I'm physically or legally unable to for some reason, or it would be considered, unsafe. And I pretty much settled on Tier 1 as being my favorite for, at least for the Glocks, for this Glock 43X. I don't think they make ones for the LCP, which is disappointing, because I do carry that a lot. I know a lot of people hate on the LCPs, but like I said, when you made the decision that I will carry almost 100% of the time, there's just a lot of times where that makes the most sense, to not have to make drastic changes or drastic dressing around, whatever. It's just to have something with you all the time. The LCP makes that way easier and makes way more sense. But for the Glock 43 and for some of the other ones like the Smith & Wesson, the M&P Shield, stuff like that, anything around that size, the Tier 1 concealed is fantastic. I'll put a link to them, I guess. I have several of theirs, and I just recently I haven't even received it yet. It's basically this holster, but it has the magazine, similar to it's the very popular one now. I think it started with the sidecar, the ones that have a hinge for the extra magazine, but worn in the front appendix carry. One of the adaptive, or mods, I guess, that I've made, you could say, is the wedge, and you can make this yourself. And I think that they should start designing holsters around using that, because it's not a flat surface on the back, and it would be pretty easy to make it a flat surface so that their own product or various other kinds of similar products could work a little better and be more effective. But it hasn't come off so far, so that's fantastic. One thing I don't like about most holster companies, though, is would it really be that hard for them to put some kind of either laser etched or even just painted or marked? You could have a heat stamp or whatever to just say what the model holster is and which firearm it's for. Because I write them on myself a lot of times of what gun it's for, just so I know by looking at it. But I've had other situations where I say, that's great, I want to get this holster for this other gun as well, or maybe even get a backup this one if I have, for whatever reason, and I'm like, which model is this again? And then you have to go on their website and look at all the different ones and be like, this one kind of looks the same as that, but is that the same? So if you didn't keep your order history or whatever, that can be kind of a pain. But that was a long tangent for me to say that I've gotten really fond of the Tier 1 concealed holsters. Let me know what you guys think about tomorrow and what we're going to see in the US, if anything, and other kind of Western countries. I think that we'll see a lot of protest type stuff, maybe some little, I don't even want to call them skirmishes, but just say bouts of people, of individuals disagreeing. But I would not be surprised if we don't see anything too crazy. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we do see a few isolated incidents. And like I said, if there's even one, it's going to be everywhere. So, and further stoke what's going on. So let me know what you guys think, what's going to happen tomorrow, if anything, and what you're doing to be prepared if you're doing anything beyond just your basic day-to-day situational awareness and self-defense decisions. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.